Our journey to discover the dangers of relying on Kundalini begins by considering the profile of yin. And let's more than 100 years before the advent of Buddha, Lao Tzu composed the 81 poems of the Tao Te Ching. Repeated reading reveals patterns, and one of those patterns is yin and yang. A philosophical take on yin and yang as opposed to a medical take or an engineering take. So in the Tao Te Ching, it's concerned less with metaphysics and more with philosophy. And the picture painted by the 81 poems of the Tao Te Ching is that those who are defined by yin tend to be flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind, which sounds lovely, doesn't it? But what about the profile of yang? Well, according to those same 81 poems, the description of someone who relies upon a yang world outlook is going to be more rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. Indirectly, actively manipulating our energy through our channels, winds, and drops, using Chinese modalities or Hindu modalities or Buddhist modalities, is still an act of indulging our controlling tendencies. I want to access this state, so I'm going to work with these visualizations, this type of breathing, this type of visualization, this type of chanting to get what I want. Now, that's very much in harmony with the bucket of slop I was fed in the 80s, being a coffee achiever. Go out there and make it happen. Yuck. That creates more harm than good. But wait, there's more. It is very, very easy to harm our body and to harm our mind with Kundalini. It is so common that the phrase Kundalini, if you look up Kundalini on Google, one of the suggestions will be Kundalini rage. Growing up, I had a dear friend whose whole family was involved in Kundalini yoga, and over the years, I saw his disposition shift into increasingly more and more aggressive and mean-spiritedness. And when I dabbled in it, I experienced the same thing. And when I take action and get bad results and still feel myself drawn to something, I look for variations and permutations. And gee, it didn't work that way. Maybe I can make it work this way, or maybe I can make it work another way. So I try to take an analytical approach. But after 30 years of experimentation, I still haven't found a way to thrive with Kundalini yoga as far as my emotions, as far as my body, and as far as my psychology. And from those I've spoken with, from those I've interviewed, that is a common thing. What's it called? Kundalini has great press, and it's kind of like having a mediocre product but a dynamite sales team. I don't know if you're as stupid as me, but I have fallen for many a slick salesman on the internet when I've interfaced with companies that put a lot of time and money into some great sales presentations, but they couldn't deliver. And that's not unique to Kundalini yoga. In many organizations, spiritual and secular, there is a significant percentage of them that spend more time trying to sell people and persuade people and hoodwink people than to really, really benefit them. And now for something completely different. I think it could be great fun if together as a team we chanted a Tuesday evening, yes, I know this is Thursday, but the Tuesday evening excerpt of the total space of Vajrasattva, known in Tibet as Dorje Sempa Namka Che. It was composed originally by Garib Dorje, edited by Chokyo Namkai Norbu, translated from the Italian into English by Adriano Clemente, and adapted by yours truly. Now, before we do this, allow me to remind you that if at any point at all during this evening, the remainder of this evening's practice, you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. Now, if you're using a laptop or a desktop, that will be on the right. And if you're using a vertical smartphone, it'll be right down here. Copy. All right, here we go. Coining the expression gate to the subtle, they seek the path by isolating the mind. I'm going to add an additional syllable here. I think it fits in nicely. And I'm going to italicize it and make it much smaller. Oh, let's try something else for a second. I'm just getting too big for my britches over here. Okay, here we go. Take two. Coining the expression gateway to the subtle, they seek the path by isolating the mind. Maintaining isolation in a secluded place. If we examine well, this is conceptual meditation. Those who prize being rigid, fearful, controlling, cryptic, competitive, and cruel teach the value of the meditator isolating themselves from society. Some are malicious, most are just lazy-minded, but either way, by forgetting that humans have evolved to be social, they do far more harm than good. So our secondary reward system is oxytocin-oriented. It rewards for everything that leads to fulfillment, relationships and being of service and the like. When we are isolated, our body stops releasing oxytocin. I do not recommend that. Together, they coin the terms cause and effect, but both virtues and take two. But both virtues and negativities dissolve completely. They say we will get out of this world and nurture supreme complacency in accepting and rejecting. Just as impermanence makes of spooky karma a phantom, likewise renunciation drags us even deeper into the quagmire of dualities, desire and dread. Attachment and non-attachment are but the path of... I think I should move that word. Attachment and non-attachment are the path of words, and something in the middle is the same like an echo. The extremes of dread and desire and all points in between sound resounding as we notice during our inhalation, yet feel as non-graspable as an echo as we relax during our exhalation. Together, happiness and suffering have the same cause, said Vajrasattva, Lord of Beings. Though prized and shunned, happiness and suffering are just emotions, nothing more. Come, let us rest in non-duality. So, instead of ignoring what emotion we're feeling, just paint it with a broad brush strokes and describing all emotions, pleasurable and painful, as emotions. And the same thing with everything else. Same thing with perceptions, same thing with intentions, cognitions, recollections, and imaginings. Together. Attachment, anger, and ignorance arise from the path of total body. The five sense objects of enjoyment too are said to be the ornament of the Dharma-datta dimension. Although those who prize being rigid, fearful, controlling, cryptic, competitive, and cruel forsake desire, dread, and dullness, as well as the delights of sight, sound, sensation, flavor, and scent. Those who treasure being flexible, loving, laid back, lucid, cooperative, and kind recognize those 8 things as the fuel that turns the gears of the enlightenment machine. Oh, look at that. That ended pretty quick. That's what she said. Okay, so... all right, that's taken care of. Molto bene. So, what I'm going to do now is give you a heads up. What I'd like to do is perform a final pre-meditation chant, review the instructions of meditation, and then meditate. Before we do that, let's take less than 1 minute for housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. I've spent more than half my life studying, practicing, and then reverse engineering the teachings, practices, and techniques of each school of Buddhism so that I could play the Yoda to your Luke Skywalker and help you to quickly and easily become the person that your dog already thinks you are. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. There we go. So, for our final set of pre-meditation chants, let us perform the recitations of empathetic bodhicitta and enthusiastic refuge. We will begin with a literal recitation that implements the triplet chant together. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on thee. Buddha's example, instructions, and students. 2 things. Number 1, this is not a prayer to some real or imagined celestial entity. We simply are using words to guide our intention, or in this case, to strengthen our intention. Number 2, these 3 highlighted words are so useful that they've earned the metaphoric nickname, the 3 wish-fulfilling jewels. For our final chant is going to be more figurative and more concise, while implementing, instead of the triplet chant, the bookend chant. Together. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. This is also fun to recite while performing variations of geriatric step-back squat thrusts for a full body and mind workout, followed, of course, by silent meditation. So let's take a moment to review the basic meditation instructions. Mindfulness and meditation are known by many names, including Zen, Proto-Zen, Shan, Dhyana, Mahamudra, Mahasandhi, Anti-Yoga, Dzogchen, and Trekcho. And despite the fanciness of these names and the plethora of illustrations, it's actually quite easy. Let's begin with mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we access the central nervous system's sympathetic nervous system, ensconced within the thoracic region of our spinal cord. It is evolved not for active concentration, but instead to merely perceive, and to do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. And there are many ways to play with this energy. A great one to begin with or warm up with is the 12-syllable inhalation. Now, it's not an affirmation because we're dealing with stuff that are actually occurring, not stuff that we merely want to occur. Perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. There is a myth that a monkey mind is a bad thing, but it actually isn't. It is a dynamo that can drive the healing potentialities of meditation. Consider, if you will, this teaching tool from Tibet. We see a couple sporting in tantric union. The woman is depicted as being the color of a cumulus cloud, and she is sporting in wild abandon. This symbolizes the antics of mind, the play of mind. What are some of mind's antics? Through its sense organs, mind sees, hears, feels, tastes, smells, and the like. Internally, mind emotes, intends, reasons, recalls, imagines, and confabulates. Now, a reasonable question is, what are we to do with all this stuff that our central nervous system notices? And the answer, the cryptic and concise answer to that is meditation. You see, every time we exhale, whether you know it or not, we access our parasympathetic nervous system, which is ensconced in both the lumbar region of our spinal cord as well as the tippy top of the cervical region. It is wired for both physical relaxation as well as mental release. Or to put it in terms of the 12-syllable exercise, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. So do we have to rigidly and superstitiously believe that our mind's literal nature is to be non-graspable? No. Do we have to pseudo-intellectually somehow prove that to ourselves and others? No. Back in 4th grade, we should have been taught that a significant portion of communication is figurative. The only way our mind is not graspable is this way. Every time we relax during our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation can now feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. It could feel as if it was as non-graspable as the illusion of the infinite azure sky and a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be tantalizing to the eye, is most certainly non-graspable to the hand. The same holds true with the metaphors of birthlessness or no self. They're just ways of describing the fleeting experience of non-graspability, empowered by each relaxing exhalation. So now that we've covered that, and I don't see any questions at the moment, together as a team, let's meditate as profoundly as Ahsoka Tano on Lothal. Let's begin with the 12-syllable exercise. We're going to switch gears now from the 12-syllable exercises to the 3-syllable exercises. So the go-to method is a distinct distillation of the previous exercise. As we inhale, we could silently and mentally recite, "Notice this." And as we exhale, we could silently and mentally recite, "Relaxing." Now, there will be times when you feel like you're in a crisis, you're feeling things very, very strongly. When that happens, you can use the technique I mentioned during class, or actually during my explanation of tonight's recitation. You can notice perceptions, or you can notice the internal life of the mind, emotions, intentions, cognitions, recollections, and imaginings. The goal of this is not to make those perceptions or internal phenomena go away. It's to harness them and benefit from them. It's kind of like this. I once saw a sci-fi show. It was a vignette show. I think it was a new version of The Twilight Zone, or a new version of the outer limits or some such thing. And this woman was waiting for a streetcar, and a mysterious one would show up. And she was terrified to go into it. And she thought it was like a demonic streetcar come to take her to hell. It actually was the fulfillment of all her dreams. Similarly, when we experience something strongly in meditation, that is not a problem. That is potentially, if you've ever seen Spaceballs, it's like going from standard propulsion to ludicrous speed in terms of spiritual growth. So when you feel something strongly, harness it. And now let's continue. The instructions are identical as we switch from the 3-syllable exercise to the 1-syllable exercise. We're using the word feel both for sensation as well as emotion. We're using the word then to denote recollection and dream to denote imagination. But our go-to technique is to rely upon the demonstrative pronoun doing the inhalation to help us practice mindfulness, and the 1-syllable verb ease during the exhalation to help us to meditate. If you've just joined in, welcome aboard. If you want to catch the lesson, just drag the indicator bar all the way to the left. If you want to meditate with me, that's very cool. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. Remember, mindfulness and meditation is simply about perception and release. Welcome to this evening's practice. The moment you have, a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them to your life, simply type your question in the chat window. Until then, the basic practice is this. The key to mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation to help us to perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. The key to meditation is to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease, which functions as a synonym of relax, during each exhalation to help us to physically relax as well as mentally release. And that is all meditation is. Despite all the books and all the seminars and all the robes and all the bad haircuts. What is the litmus test of meditation? Love. If you meditate in such a way, if you replace meditation with concentration and you find yourself getting cranky, then you've known that just like Bugs Bunny said to Daffy Duck, you took a wrong turn in Albuquerque. However, if the more you practice mindfulness and meditation, the more resilient, peaceful, and loving you feel, then you're sprinting in the right direction. The great luminaries of Buddhism, people who repaired the damage done to Buddhism by the big old fools who thought it would be a good idea to teach people to be rigid, fearful, controlling, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. So there have been reformers. There were some Chinese reformers. My favorite is the author who wrote the Song of Enlightenment. And in Afghanistan, the Swat Valley, there was a fellow named Prahevajra. And his reform became known as Dzogchen. Both of them were all about keeping it simple, dispensing with rituals and offerings and visualizations and mantras and energy work, and simply noticing and releasing whatever spontaneously comes up. My geography is not good, nor is my recall. The Swat Valley doesn't move, but the borders between Pakistan and Afghanistan do move. And there was a time when they weren't even considered separate countries. They were all part of India. So you get the basic idea. The popular question in dating circles is, how do I know if the person I'm dating is a narcissist? And the easiest way is to just be vulnerable. If someone responds to your vulnerability with gentleness and respect and their own vulnerability, you're going in the right direction. If someone responds to your vulnerability with gaslighting or cruelty, that's a huge red flag. If you've just tuned in, welcome. If you wish to watch the opening lesson, you can just drag your indicator bar to the left. If you wish to participate in the remaining 16 or 17 minutes of meditation, you're very welcome. The key to mindfulness is, one of the most efficient ways to practice mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation. And one of the more efficient ways of meditating is to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation, enabling us to perceive and release in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation and the wiring of our autonomic nervous system. On second thought, let's seal this evening's practice with a bit of the old chanting, beginning with kind ethics and concluding with the four immeasurables. These are not prayers to some real or imagined celestial entity, but simply our act of using words to guide our own intentions. Together. May all beings practice of kind communication, conduct, and calmness flow spontaneous and uncontrived. May everyone be free from misery, may everyone be happy. May no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging freed. If you feel that I have earned it, you could type something in the chat. I'm sorry. If you feel that I've earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel on Patreon or Facebook. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.